evening, we bring you the latest in the world of sports. I'm Paolo Del Rosario.
We give you the conversations you want to hear from your favorite icons and athletes. I'm Diego Dario. It's all hoops today, and we're kicking things off with the PBA Governor's Cup.
Buckle up, sports fans. Let's get in the game. Well, we are 2 games into the PBA Governor's Cup semis, and both matchups have exciting storylines heading into tomorrow's game day. Now, joining us to talk about the upcoming battle is the Jet himself, basketball analyst and PBA legend, Jeffrey Cariaso. Coach Jeff, how are you doing?
Hey, Coach.
Good, Paolo. Hey, Diego. Again, always nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's always great having you here, Coach. And of course, with Diego here, we're going to ignore his Meralco connections at the moment.
Can you talk about it a bit, Paolo?
Just a bit, yeah. But let's focus first here on Barangay Ginebra and the San Miguel Beermen. 2-0 in favor of Barangay Ginebra. A lot of people might be surprised with how the series is going, considering it has been a bit one-sided scoreline-wise, at the very least. What do you see in the series so far?
Right. So I'm seeing a difference in defense, honestly, and how both teams are executing. So obviously, when it comes to the playoffs, and especially in the semis, and you're going up against a very good championship-level team, you got to be on cue when your defense. So right now, it's Ginebra who's, again, being able to defend better. They're scrambling for the ball. They're getting after every loose ball. 50-50s there, and they're controlling the rebound. So I think that's the biggest factor on why Ginebra's up right now.
And Coach Jeff, let's talk about that start by Ginebra. They started off with an 18-1 start in Game 2. What did you see? What did they do at the start of that game, Coach?
Well, again, they generate their offense from their defense, and I think people see the flashy plays by Jamie and the penetration by all their guards and the shooters, and see Stan getting his buckets, running the floor. But that starts from your defense, so that's really what I saw. Right now, I think San Miguel looks a little flat going into these last 2 games. But again, you do not count out a championship-level team also, because they're going to be ready in Game 3.
Of course, the guys that need to step up for San Miguel Beermen, a lot of people are going to be asking that. We've had a good offensive production from guys like CJ Perez. Chris Ross has distributed the ball well, 8 assists last game, if I'm not mistaken. You take a look at what's happening right now for the San Miguel Beermen. I'm sure there are a lot of adjustments that need to be made, but in your mind, what is the one adjustment that they need most in particular?
I think I'm going to stick to my defensive mindset and stay there. I think ball screen and being able to defend that and have an actual scheme where you're changing it up, because in the playoffs, again, you have to be quick in your decision making. You have to be able to change it up. If something's not working, you got to be able to move forward and have another scheme in your pocket, because if not, that other team's going to eat you alive.
Barangay Ginebra scoring more than 120 points in the 2 games, and of course playing with a lot of emotion. Of course, we have to take a moment here for L.A. Tenorio, who has been present at the games, acting as an assistant coach. Of course, still in his battle with the stage 3 colon cancer. So L.A., our hearts go out to you. But then you also see Barangay Ginebra playing with a bit more of emotion. Do you think that that's also a factor going into this, that they're playing with, I guess, a bit more fire, a bit more purpose than otherwise?
I think it is. I think with them, with the situation with LA, their teammate, their brother, their kuya, I think guys are coming out, extra motivated. Internally, I'm assuming that they're going to dedicate this conference to him. So just the fact that he's there, present every game, I'm sure every practice they're playing for him. But yeah, they're using that with, they're already experienced, good team to kind of push him up to the next level, and they're doing it.
And Coach, talking about motivation, let's talk about SMB's motivation. They're down 0-2 right now. I mean, in the brink of elimination in the next game. But you, as a coach, how do you try to motivate this team to try and make this comeback against a team like Ginebra?
Well, again, San Miguel is also a very good team. And I say that Cameron Clark is the perfect import for them. And I said that many times when we cover their games. I just feel like right now it's not just clicking for them in all cylinders all at the same time. You get good performances from CJ and Cameron's, doing his thing. But then you got to be able to kind of bring that together, and you got to have nights where everyone's kind of feeling good. And again, I go back to that, and I'm a broken record. It starts with defending.
Yeah, let's see whether or not San Miguel
Especially in
can
the playoffs, Coach.
get the
Especially in the
defense down pat. Of course, it will now go on to the other matchup. And camera 2 pa zoom in, get Diego out of the frame. Because obviously, at the moment, we're going to be talking about the Meralco Bolts and the TNT Tropang Giga. 1-1 in the series so far. Coach, you take a look at what happened in game number 2. Blowout in game number 1. Diego Dario had 5 minutes in game number 1. That's how much of a blowout it was. But then, Coach Jeff, you take a look at what happened in game number 2. KJ McDaniel stepping up in a big way against RHJ. Aaron Black also playing really well. Just what did Meralco do differently? Because they look like a completely different team.
And they were a completely different team. So I'm assuming Coach Norming and the staff really got on the guys for, I guess, the energy and how they started the game in game 1. Whatever the reasons were, whether they were a little tired coming off that last game, whether they were shocked with how well TNT started the game, it really doesn't matter. But the bottom line is they woke up in game 2 and they took care of business. And it started with how they started the game. They're energized, guys are performing at a high level, and you could see it in them that there was a different team from the get-go.
And just to add to that also, I mean, I totally agree with Coach Jeff, because it's not even a secret anymore. I don't have to hide it, that in the playoffs, you need energy and effort.
Yeah.
And, I think in game 2, that was the biggest difference compared to game 1.
Well, there's going to be a crunch game 3. Of course, the TNT Tropang Giga did not shoot the ball as well as they did in the first game. Of course, they were just lights out in game number 1. How do you see game number 3 shaping up now that it's all even again and Meralco have a bit of their bearings and TT now have a time to adjust?
First of all, I think it's going to be a wonderful game 3 because both teams now they're at even. It's even, obviously, and them wanting, TNT wanting to recover from a loss. They also had their chances. So regardless of how well Meralco came out and sustained that throughout the game, TNT, I felt, still had their chances to win during that game. So they know they were close. I know there's a couple questions with a couple calls, but again, it's part of basketball.
Right.
It could have gone their way easily and it'd be 2-0. But again, I expect TNT to be ready. I expect Meralco to come out and bring that same fire from the beginning to set the tone.
My own personal question here, since we have time for one last question, is whether or not Aaron Black could keep on firing the way that he is. Diego has said so much about Aaron off the air in a good way. But Coach, you take a look at, he had a bit of a coming out party in the finals against Barangay Ginebra in the past. And here he is right now continuing that. I don't think he's ever going to reach his dad's numbers, to be fair. But what do you make of his recent play?
I'm really happy and proud with Aaron because he's really coming to his own. He's understanding now what it takes to be successful in the PBA. And his confidence is at an all-time high. You just see it, and when you're watching him, it just looks like it. He's more composed, he's playing with it himself, and he's understanding what's expected of him as the starting point guard. So yeah, I expect him to just keep going, and he needs to understand also that his play is crucial to the success of Meralco.
28 points, 5 rebounds, and 10 assists in game number 2 for Aaron Black. Coach, we're not done with you yet. We have a lot more to talk about.
That's right, because after the break, we'll continue the hoops talk, but this time we go overseas as we look at the latest in the NBA. Stay tuned. You're watching The Game. Welcome back, you're watching The Game. With less than a month to go before the playoffs, the NBA is nearing the end of its regular season. Two particular teams are continuously fighting to get ahead as we move closer to the postseason. Still with us to talk about what's going on with the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks is basketball analyst Coach Jeff Carriazo. Now, Coach, it's been a crazy Western Conference this season for the NBA. Before we talk about Golden State and the Dallas Mavericks, talk about the logjam in that Western Conference in the NBA right now, Coach.
Yeah, so if you're not watching the NBA games daily, you're missing out on just some awesome basketball action because, you know, right now, your favorite team cannot be in the play-in, and then they lose a game today, and they are in the play-in, just like the Warriors. But again, the logjam is making it super interesting. Everyone's fighting for position. Everyone can still make it from 4 to 12.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, you know, you got to be watching.
You know, it's so funny. First of all, I want to give credit to our producers today because they actually included my Utah Jazz and his Portland Trail Blazers in the standings, even though we're not in the play.
I like that.
Of course, you take a look at the logjam, and you mentioned the Golden State Warriors falling right now into the play-in. And can they actually lift themselves up from this? They haven't looked particularly good in the past few weeks.
They haven't looked good this whole season, especially on the road.
Yeah.
So right now, what's a little scary is you don't want to be in that play-in because anything can happen there, right? So you want to be safe and be at least at number 6. And to me, again, being a Warriors fan, being at number 6, being at number 5, where it's still possible, that's where you want to be because that's a scary opponent to play at that level, at that position. So, you know, anything can happen, and we're hoping again that they stay out of that position.
And for the Golden State Warriors, pal, I mean, just to paint a picture of how it's gonna be, one win can put them above the playoff line, and a loss can make them drop 2 to 3 ranks down, Coach. I mean, it's basically playoff time for the Western Conference right now because you can't just lose games. What do you think the Golden State Warriors should do now, Coach, especially, you know, without Wiggins there, Curry being in and out of the lineup as well?
So Wiggins is really a big factor. I felt he's your X factor on why the Warriors won a championship last year, and to not have him as that third go-to guy is really hurting them. I like the fact that GP3 is back and he's playing. So, you know, defensively, I think he's going to be a stud. So it's really just kind of everything clicking at the right time. And, you know, like I said, they position themselves in a position where they're going to be a hard, 5 or 6, or even number 4 at the highest level. I think it's going to be tough for any team.
You know, so because there are no Lakers fans here in the panel, we are not going to talk about the Lakers. But we're going to talk about one guy that everyone wishes is a Laker. That is Luka Doncic and the Golden State Warriors. You like that segue?
I like that.
I like that segue, yeah. But when
I would want Luka in any team.
In any team. But you take a look at the Dallas Mavericks right now. They're still chasing the play-in spot here, 37-39. A lot of people are saying that the Kyrie-Luka connection isn't working. They are 3 of 7 in the last 10 games. And you take a look at what's happening right now. You put them on paper, they should be surefire in the playoffs. What's happening? What's going wrong?
I honestly think 10 games is not enough to gauge them properly. It's too soon, you know. But the reason why I think it's a big topic is because they were in the play-in at the very least, and now they're at number 11. So them, again, they have 7 or 8 games left. They could easily make number 5 or number 6, just like all the other teams like we mentioned. But the question is, because of the trade, is it working between those two? Is Kyrie and Luka, are they you know, understanding each other better? Is it the time, you know, are they picking it up in regards to being able to play with each other? So I think the 10 games still too early. They're going to still be a good team.
Yeah.
And what do you think is, you know, kind of not working yet for the Dallas Mavericks now that, you know, Luka's there, Kyrie's there? They basically gave up a lot of assets to get a guy like Kyrie for the Dallas Mavericks.
No, that's true. So it's really, everything needs to initiate and start from them. So I think what they need to improve on is when to give each other the time and the space. So when it's your turn, you know, go ahead, you can fill out in a court and just kind of be there. And you know, they both can create anyway. They're both good players. I think they're going to figure it out soon.
So, should you tell all the Dallas fans not to panic and not to blow it up yet?
I say not to panic. They will make the playoffs.
Blow it up,
Alright.
meaning trade Luka? Is that what
I'm
you're trying
not
to
saying
say, pal?
anything. I'm not trying to say anything. A lot of Dallas fans out there might get angry. All right, but you know what? Given all of that, we still have a lot more NBA to talk about because after the break, we got more NBA action with results from today's big game. Stay tuned. You're watching the game. Welcome back to the game. Now, before we end the show, we've got a lot more NBA regular season action as we shift over to the big games earlier today. Still with us, Coach Jeff Carriazo and NBA Philippines All-Star analyst Diego Dario. I don't know why I don't have my own introduction, but let's take a look first at what happened
Utah
to the
Jazz
Nuggets.
fan.
Jazz fan.
Can that be the
That's
intro?
a terrible title. Nuggets beat the Sixers 116 to 111 in what should have been a battle between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. Embiid did not play. The Nuggets did get this over. A lot of people still have the conversation, Coach. Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, the MVP question might have been a bit answered today. Not going to be the case. If the MVP race did end today, who has it in your mind?
In my mind, I really think a slight edge. I'm going with Joel Embiid. You know, I think he's been consistent throughout the years. I think the race has been close actually the last few years. But you know, I think this year is his year. He's actually all over the stat sheets on different categories. You know, his team's winning. You know, he's controlling his emotions a little bit better.
Yeah.
He's a better player, but you know, I think he deserves it this year.
Comes with age and, of course, Embiid or Jokic, Jegs?
Whew, I might have to go the other way here with Jokic just because they're the number one seed in the West. I mean, winning
point.
matters. It's still averaging almost a triple-double.
Yeah.
Just, you know, an assist away basically from a triple-double is Nikola Jokic. So, I mean, you still got to give it to him, especially if they're the number one team in the West right now.
Moving on to another big game here. The Timberwolves did not allow the Kings to light the purple beam. Instead, they're howling into the night. Now, the Timberwolves climbed to the 6th seed at the expense of Golden State. I'm sorry, Coach.
Right.
Jaden McDaniels and Ant carried against the Kings. Take a look at the numbers there, 20 and 17 for McDaniels and Edwards, respectively. Right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves have been a very weird team. At one point, maybe last month, it felt like they weren't even in the playoffs, and right now they're at number 6. Why do you think they're more stable? Is it because of Cat being able to, come back here during the stretch?
Really, I mean, that's really the number one reason, especially this past week where they've won 4 in a row with him, right? I think he took a day off today, but his presence, along with Gobert and then all their other players and guards, I think are playing at a high level now. I think they are peaking at the right time. They are beating good teams down the stretch. So meaning down, towards the end of the season, and they're doing well. So they're not a light team that you could just kind of walk over. You gotta respect them.
I was gonna talk a bit more about Gobert and Conley, but I won't let my partner Diego Dario have an opportunity to throw shade at me.
Because those are your former Jazz players.
Instead, we're gonna end the show right there. Coach Jeff Carriazo, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being on the show and really just sharing all of your insight. And Jegs, take it away.
I mean, watch the NBA. It's going to be a crazy games heading into the playoffs. And that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Diego Dario.
I'm Paulo De Rosario. This has been The Game.